This conference will now be recorded.
It would be great for those of you who could turn on your camera. I'd love to see your smiling faces. So first, I just want to go over a few things regarding the virtual meeting. As you heard, the meeting is being recorded. It is also being transcribed, hence the reason that we put in you could only use the app and not call in via just a phone number, so that we had your name. I would ask that if Amanda and Josh could just send Jonathan Cole an email, so we ensure that we have you recorded in the attendance, because we only have your first names, and we have a few Amandas and a few Joshes in the region. As we move forward, Dr. Delaney has asked me to facilitate this meeting. So just a couple of things. We would like to unmute everybody so that if you want to speak, you have the opportunity to, but to decrease background noise on your end, you need to keep yourself muted unless you are speaking. Otherwise, we get too much feedback. Please keep the camera on if possible. One of the things that we discussed as we move forward in doing these virtual meetings is ensuring that everybody has the opportunity to speak when they want to speak. So if you do want to say something, please, in the chat box, again, it should be a little bubble up in the right-hand corner of your screen. If you type a quick S in there and hit enter, one of our organizers will see it, which will allow the meeting facilitator to call on you to speak. Make sure that you're stating your name before you speak if possible. I do believe that the recording should pick it up, but again, this is our first time attempting to do this with the transcription feature, which is new to us on GoToMeeting. As we move through the agenda, and like when I get to the program agency report, I will move through and do my whole report. And then towards the end of the presentation, I will put all the motions together on one slide. Reason being is that when we have a motion, we are going to have to do a roll call vote. So that will hopefully save us time. We'll be able to do all the motions at the end that are coming out of my report, or for example, an approval of the minutes. But again, if we are in a discussion about something and you want to make a motion at any time, please feel free to do so. I would like to thank Mark Devers and Jonathan Cole. They are acting as an organizer for this meeting. They are monitoring that chat box. So if you want to make a comment, please, you can just type an S in there, and then we'll call on you to speak. One of the other things that we ask is, after this meeting, please provide us feedback on anything that we could do different, so that we will have that moving forward for the REMAC meeting, which will have more people on it, and try and help us improve this process of virtual meetings, which we are all new to. I would also like to thank Tom Zecker from FDR-HPO, as he is on the call to assist us with any technical issues if they do develop. So moving forward, I'd like to kind of keep the format as is. So, and I really want to see if it's going to drive the transcription crazy, but I'm going to have Jonathan put the flag up on the screen. And if we could all please stand where we are and say the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Jonathan? You guys have to unmute yourself. You're not going to make me do this on my own. So, I pledge allegiance
to the flag
To the flag.
United States of America,
republic for which it stands.
One nation, under God,
under God,
and
indivisible,
just
with liberty
justice
and justice for all.
for all.
All right. Thank you. That tells us that that does not work for everybody to be speaking at once. But it was a good shot. Thank you. And I do appreciate you. Dr. Howland is excused this evening. And I do believe that we have a quorum now. So I did send out to everybody the February 2020 minutes. You should have had an opportunity to look at them. Again, we'll vote on them later in the meeting. Does anybody have any changes on them at all or discussion on the minutes that were sent out? All right, hearing none, and Jonathan hasn't let me know. Sorry, I apologize. Jonathan, did you get the one chat that's in there?
Yep, I replied to it.
Okay. I have to stop paying attention to every red blip on my screen. So on the screen now, you will see correspondence. This correspondence is the DOH endorsements. As you can see, they are from February of 2020 through June 17th of 2020. I do not know the locations of them because it does not show on the website. They are all violations of Part 800, and they resulted in voluntary surrenders of either their EMT certificate, one their CIC certification, and a couple, one was revoked, one was suspended. The names are as follows: Kurt Bowen, Carol Ong, Cody Pesta, David Torres, and I guess I put that name in the other way, Robert Velezquez. I probably butchered that name, so I apologize. All right, moving on to other correspondence. So we received some EMS feedback from upstate. A 77-year-old female that was found down by her husband after hearing a weird noise. Patient was found to be altered and the husband called 911. The patient was picked up by Governor Rescue, who I believe sent them via Air Medical to the stroke center. Let's see, so on the rescue squad was Timothy Spicer and Mark Devers. LifeNet crew was Rod Custer, Zach Kermitz, Richard Edgington, and Jody Edmond. And when all was done and said, the injury to reperfusion time for this patient was 3 hours and 52 minutes. And the patient was discharged home with a NIHSS of 1 and had minor facial paralysis. So the CTA showed that they had a complete occlusion of the left MCA with significantly decreased blood flow observed to the left hemisphere of the brain. So great job by the whole crew. A shout out to all of you.
And just so you know, Debbie does have another DOH enforcement, but we're having some technical difficulties with her.
Okay. So we'll keep moving on with the correspondence, and when she's ready, she can add it in. So we did receive correspondence from the Bureau of EMS that the Smithville Fire Department successfully renewed their BLS-FR. We also received correspondence that Bassett Medical Center has been verified as an adult level 3 trauma center as of January 7th. Again, that correspondence came after our last meeting. Other correspondence that we've received, we are now receiving all of the certificate of need renewals via email. So the state's been backed up a little bit on them with the COVID crisis. So Carthage Area Ambulance and Natural Bridge, we received both of their certificate of needs with their new dates. So for the agencies who are in attendance, that is how you will now receive your certificate of need. And you still have to print it out and post it on the wall. You will no longer get it in the mail. And that it may be that way moving forward, even when the state is back in the office. So does anybody have any other correspondence? I did send out via email air medical stats for a first quarter report from the clearinghouse, the Air Methods did, as well as Mercy Flight sends me stats routinely every month, and I combined them all into one document for the stats from January until May of this year for the calls that they have done. Most of them for Jefferson and Lewis County they report on. Any other correspondence, or Debbie, were you able to get back on? I see her. No sound though. Okay, moving forward, Mark Devers, anything else on the state EMS meetings? They were canceled. They were going to be held this month virtually, but they ran into some issues with how they were going to facilitate that, I believe. So at this time, we don't have a date for them. Anything else, Mark?
That is it. The way it sounds is they are trying to get a date set in the next coming weeks, but we shall see.
All right, I'll put you on the spot again for the RSI testing status. I know we haven't had any agencies that have applied.
We met a few months ago and had the conversation of RSA. There was a letter drafted. I don't know if it ever actually went out. With the die down of the coronavirus concerns, at least currently, intubation seems to be coming back as the gold standard. So at this point, if we could get a couple agencies to apply so we can move forward with the project, it would be great.
Anybody else have anything to add in regards to the state EMS meetings or RSI? Okay, moving on down to the protocols. Under the new protocol process, there was a link which is posted on our website for people to submit suggestions. I did forward out today 3 months worth of suggestions that Rochester had forwarded to us. And at this point, again, I have no idea when the collaborative protocol committee is going to meet again, but if you'd like to review any of those or have any suggestions or feedback on those, that would be greatly appreciated. Debbie, did you get your sound back?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can now. I think
All
you got
right. So let me back up quick and just give you the other DOH enforcement that I received on the 23rd. It is revoked effective 6/16 for violations of 10 NYCRR Part 800.16, 2, 3, 8, and 10. The person's name is Jamie Whiting from Rochester, New York. So that has been revoked. As for the BLS 12 lead, we have not had any calls where our BLS or advanced have been on without a critical care or paramedic available, so I have nothing new to report on that. I know that Henderson, because of where they're located, is interested in looking at doing this. And I know we said we were going to give it a couple months and see what we had for data. I don't have, we've had 2 calls and both of them went to Samaritan. One went to Syracuse. And I don't have any other data to report, and I don't know what the feeling is. If you want to go ahead and introduce this to others, the paperwork, the training, I'm sure Paul would be glad to share the training, and I would be glad to share the paperwork if you would like to proceed to open that up to other agencies.
Does anybody have comments on that? I think so. The BLS 12 lead has been approved at the state since what, Debbie, 2015, I believe was the policy statement.
It was, yes.
I would certainly advocate moving forward with it. I think the one big thing is that the agency needs to ensure that they have the ability to transmit. So I also think that we kind of need a process in place so that the REMAC knows who is doing BLS 12 lead and who isn't, so we can pull some of those stats.
Yeah, and I think that they need to spell out their process, excuse me, like we have right in ours, the phone number to call at Samaritan and things like that, so that we know what's happening. And quite honestly, we've got to see like if Samaritan is interested in adding any more to that, or if that's something that they're not interested in.
So I think that maybe there's some more discussions that would be relevant to that. I guess I would offer to say, is anybody opposed to moving forward to that? If so, please speak now or forever hold your peace. So maybe the work item out of that is that we work to get a agency-wide process where we can template some of the things and give them guidance as we have done with the other adjuncts. And then they can fill in, specific hospital contact information and stuff.
Absolutely, it's all saved. It's very easy. And we're requiring quarterly that folks come in and practice it. And it was very evident that that is something that has to be done. When we just did it a couple weeks ago, it was evident that they needed that time to put it on somebody and practice it. So it isn't something that we're just going to say you can, train on once a year. They really need to have time to do that.
And it's Matt.
Yes.
I've had a couple people actually inquire about it at our agency down in Constableville. We had a STEMI recently that we actually flew, and Keith Bates, I'm sure you're familiar with him, but he, being a registered nurse with a flight background, he started asking us like, hey, is this something, a viable option for us? Because if it truly is a chest pain call and we can do a 12 lead, get it interpreted and fly this patient because of maybe some limited availability of resources, it's something viable. So I know that I've had some piqued interest with us. I mean, monitors are expensive and stuff, but I definitely see in the near force.
Right, Matt, you're a little broken up. I
push
most of that, but I didn't hear the very end.
just generally that we have some people.
I think poor Matt's having audio, but I think we got the gist of that they have some interest in it, and it is especially useful in the more rural aspects of our county. So you may have to type something in the chat, Matt, because your audio is breaking up. So it sounds like everybody is in favor of moving forward with putting together the regional paperwork for that. So Sarah, do you have any issue with that?
No, I support that, Ann.
Okay. Maya?
I support it.
Okay. Dr. Coates?
Yeah, I think it sounds good.
Okay. Dr. Heiss?
I agree.
Okay. Thank you. Did I get all the docs that are on? Yep. All right. So the difficult airway, we were not able to have any classes. I know that the REMSCO has on the agenda to talk about the contract for the difficult airway class. Debbie, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I tried reaching out to them, and I don't believe they're back in yet to be able to give us any guidance or direction on, when they think that this is going to be available, because we do have to have them come up to do that audit. So I'm just waiting to hear back from them. And again, I don't think they're in at Stony Brook, so we're not getting any responses yet.
All right, so the last holdup was we had to have somebody come and audit the instructors, and trying to get that person here had become a challenge. But now, Debbie, I would almost recommend that if they needed to, we could set up something up virtually for them to audit us from afar.
That would save us some money as well. So I will, I sent an email to, well, I forgot his name. But I'm sure that if they're looking at emails, they're behind a little bit. Prince, what's his name?
Rudy.
Rudy. Yeah, I'll follow up with Rudy and see if we can do it virtual.
Okay. So the last one under old business that I had was the FAST ED. We had just sent out the education and the request for agencies to do the education with their providers when COVID hit. So as a result of a discussion at the RSTAC meeting last week, we did resend that out. We've only had 3 agencies report back to our office that it's complete. So with that said, the next on the agenda is the program agency report, but John Morrissey is on the phone with us, and my understanding is he has to leave at 5:30, so nobody has an issue. I'm going to just jump to John, so if he has anything to add before we move forward with my report, he can add it. John?
Hi, guys. I'm trying to get away from my canine doorbell so I can talk to you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Obviously, with things at the Bureau, we're still working out of our houses. Though, if there's any issues pressing people have, please reach out to Michael or I or Kathy, and we will be happy to facilitate through via email, phone, whatever. Our desk phones are forwarded to our cell phones, so feel free to reach out as needed. If you've got a problem, we'll try to get you some answers. Obviously, the leadership calls that Ryan has been pushing, and Steve and so forth, we're talking about gearing up for the next wave, wherever that's going to take us. Obviously, the case rates around the country right now are concerning, and we're trying to, just prepare and do some things. I've been involved writing, Michael and I are involved in writing some policy statements for some guidance related to, if you will, trigger points. If this happens, here's what a service ought to consider. If that happens, here's what a 911 center ought to consider. If this happens, here's kind of just working through kind of a logical flow so that, if the pandemic hits in great proportion again, we're ready, and basically going from there. Training and ed, as was referred to earlier, pretty much everything is electronic at this point. Everything through course sponsors and so forth. We can't deal with it if it isn't electronic. Course sponsor renewals has been deferred back to the new form will be out September 1st, and renewals will be due in by December 31st, because people are just going to need some time to reformat those things. And there's some guidance about policy and procedure changes related to that. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. I'll take questions as needed.
Does anybody have any questions for John? Anything in the chat, Jonathan or Mark?
Nothing in the chat.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you, everybody.
If you want to pull up my report, again, that's not my report, Jonathan. Again, we'll run through the report quick and then do motions at the end, as long as everybody's okay with that. Okay, go ahead and just flip right through them. So again, earlier this year, the RTAC and RSTAC meetings were canceled. We did have a virtual RSTAC on June 19th. And there was discussion about an increase in time to the treatment of stroke patients due to COVID. There was a decrease in the volume of stroke patients, and that is impacting data. Upstate is looking at doing some virtual education. And again, as I've already discussed, even in the other regions, COVID delayed the progress of the FAST-ED education being completed. I did send today the minutes from that meeting. Yesterday was the Regional Trauma Advisory Committee meeting. They did 2 presentations, and Wilson Hospital actually did a study. They had IRB review on the use of Disuvia, which is a very potent new opioid, and they utilized it with ambulatory surgical patients. And they said that, especially with the elderly patients, it had decreased side effects. They didn't have as altered mental status as much, and it increased their participation in rehab. So that was a very interesting presentation. I do believe they also said it decreased their time that they were in the hospital. So it got them back up and running quicker. And SUNY Upstate Pediatric Trauma did a presentation, and one of the big take-home points was, if you know you're going to transfer that patient, just do the minimum necessary images for their stabilization instead of doing additional imaging, especially if you don't have someone local that's going to be able to fix whatever you find on the additional imaging. They are supposed to send both of those presentations out along with the minutes, but again, the meeting was just yesterday. I will forward those along when I get them. Both are supposed to meet again September 18th. Whether it will be in person or virtual is yet to be seen. Now you can flip it, Jonathan. So medical director changes. Earlier in the year, just before COVID hit, Fort Drum Ambulance medical director changed to Dr. Isaac Mills. And I just I threw kind of a reminder up there just to remind all of our medical directors. So if you work with another physician who's a medical director for the agency, please reach out to them and remind them that for the ALS agencies that they need to be reviewing all the PCRs with Versed, morphine, fentanyl, or ketamine for the agencies that have it, that have those uses. So the agency should have a process to facilitate that, as well as a way to document that this has been completed, along with any findings, remediations, etc. And I would also encourage your ALS agencies to ensure that they are doing annual education regarding the use of those medications as well. So go ahead, Jennifer. So level of care changes, Parrishville Fire Department and Tri-Town Rescue have both submitted all the paperwork, and they do now have a couple paramedics each. Tri-Town has 3 or 4, and to increase them to the paramedic level of care. And we received a letter from Norfolk Rescue. They no longer have a paramedic, and we're going to move down to the critical care level. So that's a notification as per our policy. There's our public access to fibrillation original applications that we have received, one from Lewis County and the rest being from the YMCA, all in Jefferson County. So the first cohort of the CC to paramedic bridge program that the state put forth with Northwell Health has given us 8 new paramedics. 6 are in St. Lawrence County. We have 1 left to test yet. 2 are in Jefferson County. And then I do believe, and Matt Yelton can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but we have 1 new paramedic in Lewis County who did a bridge program that was being done in the mid-state region. So that's Cody Capron, and in Jefferson County, it's Deb and Chris Singleton. So congratulations to you. And we have on the phone with us, I do believe, Christina Kuhl, who is one of the new paramedics in St. Lawrence County. So she logged on as a guest. So I just wanted to make sure that I recognized her and said congratulations. And Jonathan, check and see if I missed anybody that's in there.
You missed yourself.
Oh, well.
So
Yeah.
Ann's a paramedic as well now, so.
So the state, all providers and instructors received a 1-year extension on their cards. We did receive a communication from the state the other day that they discussed it on our call today, that they will be getting some sort of, whether it's an email or a new certificate, they're not sure what, out to all the instructors, but because they're not in the office, that may be later on in the summer as well. As far as how providers will get cards with updated dates on them is yet to be determined. Right now, all agencies need to be registered in the health commerce system, which is a system you can go in and verify EMTs, so agency leaders can get on there, they can verify the EMTs, they can print out that paper, and that paper is used for proof that they have a card. A couple folks from FDR HPO, a huge thank you to them, Anita and Heather, who helped us pull every EMT we had registered in the system and sent them a copy of their HCS paper with their updated expiration date on it. So, and while they were doing that, we also were able to transition all our provider files electronically. We just have to scan the stuff out of our paper files, so they will be electronic moving forward. The state also provided opportunity for past providers up to a certain date to get their cards back. And with that being said, we brought 14 new providers back in the system who were previously expired. Their card is good until the end of the year, but it does also make them eligible to renew via CME. So we did add a few more providers there. Next. So for BLS Adjuncts, we just have West Leiden Ambulance for the approval of BLS albuterol and BLS CPAP, and they also put syringe epinephrine on board the ambulance, which is just a notification. Next. So that's kind of an update on EPCR. We only have a few transport agencies that are not electronic, as we inch ever closer to the April 2021 deadline that the REMAC had set previously. And to back that up, if agencies want to remain in the New York State continuing medical education program, they are going to have to be electronic. With that said, they are diligently working on having a form for the BLS FRs. There was a lot of work going on with that this week at the state level. So I did Beaver Falls. We were all scheduled to train everything just before COVID hit. We did talk to them the other night, and we're going to get scheduled and get them up and running with Image Trend here now that we can go out and train with them. Next. So with the Coverdell Stroke Program, the hospital hub comes along with that. We were able to get all the hospitals trained and make sure we got somebody logged into Hospital Hub from all of the 9 hospitals. And as of April 1st, we did not delay moving forward with that. And EMS agencies, some of them may still fax their PCRs, but they do not have to. The hospitals can go in and get them in Hospital Hub. If there are any hospitals out there having an issue, please let us know so we can work through it. We did find some data transmission errors that we were able to resolve. I should say as far as where they were going, but it does provide more secure transmission of the PCR data. And the other thing that comes through on the hospital's end in the same format for every PCR, so it'll be a little easier than trying to, if they're doing reviews, than trying to figure out where the information is on other PCRs. So with that said, again, we put a reminder out to agencies that they should leave a little run sheet or something with the very pertinent treatment information and patient demographics on it when they do drop the patient off, so that the hospital has that. Next. We're working with Cranberry Lake to get their PCRs, and just a quick note with paper PCRs, it does sound like the state is working on a process where paper PCRs may, in the near future, not even come to our office. They will, even if they're still paper, they're going to have something electronic that they're going to have to go in and put stuff in and transmit data to the state. So they may be better off getting moved to an electronic platform where it's all done automatically behind the scenes, but there's more information to come on that. Right now, all paper PCR agencies who transport still must send their PCRs to our office to be processed. Next. So we waived the CME skills, which would normally be due today for the first semester, but so ALS providers would need to complete the second semester skills and half of their total didactic. The reason I put that up there was because that's an assumption on my part, and just wanted to make sure that the whole REMAC was on board with that. And again, the BLS skills would still be due at the end of the year. I would say, you know, we can go out and do some trainings now. If that second round of COVID does come to fruition, we may have to reconsider that, but we can do that at the next meeting. Next.
Debbie has a question. Go ahead, Deb.
And I guess all of REMAC, we know what's going to happen here. We see it every year. People wait until the end of the year to do their skills. And then if the COVID comes back, we're going to hear, oh, I didn't get it done because of COVID. You know, we haven't made them do anything the first part. Should we at least try to send out something and say, get your skills, your hands-on skills done by the end of October or something, with anticipation of, you know, not knowing what's going to happen with the next round of pandemic? Because, and you're going to get all kinds of emails and woe stories on how they didn't get it done, and now we're back under quarantine and all that.
You could certainly send out something to encourage the providers to get them done early. It makes perfect sense.
I mean, how, we need to be thinking about how are we going to handle it when you get inundated with emails in November or in December and January and people are offline because they didn't get it done and they're blaming it on that. So just something I think we've got to think about on how we're going to handle it, because I understand there's a pandemic, but we can't let everything just not get done because of it.
So actually, even with our office, I think that we'll move forward with trying to set up some skills sessions, because we can keep them small in nature. And so we can maybe kind of help promote that as well early, instead of waiting till November or December to do them. I do get the feeling that many of the providers are hungry for some hands-on training. They've had enough virtual training already. That's a very good thought.
And just, I would encourage, and I think it's a great idea, just please stay in line with the guidance that comes out for training centers when you do CME skills. That's kind of, I mean, we're allowing it, we're training centers, maintain social distancing, masking, hand washing, and all that stuff. And as you just encourage people to do close contact skills and so forth, because we don't know where this next evolution of this is going yet. So just a friendly caveat to keep that in mind, to follow whatever guidance is being put out for training centers, so we're keeping people safe from a PPE point of view in doing that.
Another great thought, and maybe once we get that might be the appropriate time to send out the reminder to agencies and include that guidance in it as well, because many of the agencies may not look at that, especially if it's specifically put out to the course sponsors.
Right, and I'm going to offer that it's been a number of training centers have done very well with it, and some not so great. And there's ongoing guidance that Jean Taylor is, on her calls and so forth are out there. And I just think make sure all the CME evaluators know what it is so that they can, proceed appropriately. That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, Jonathan, next one. All right, Jonathan gets to report on this one, so I am going to mute myself.
So Tom Zecker and I have taken the ball with the M resource and ran with it. We have presented to all of our regional facilities. We are now reporting regular usages from Samaritan, River, Gouverneur Hospital, Carthage Area Hospital, Lewis County General, Clifton Fine, Claxton Hepburn, Jefferson County Public Health has been utilizing the system, as well as the Jefferson County EMS office. Fort Drum MedAC, MedOps, and Emergency Management have also come online with the project since COVID has started. And they're mainly using this project now to track community resources for what the regional hospitals have available. So they can know what's going on out in the community, but also so they can better allocate Fort Drum's resources to serve the community at large. Once Fort Drum got involved, this project went from 0 to 100 really quick. Our next steps are to bring the dispatch centers online so that they can receive EMS agency staffing notifications through the system. We're going to continue to bring on additional EMS agencies. Tom and I have done a couple webinars, and we're going to do a few more and then get them posted on FDR HPO's website so people can use them as training tools. And we're going to continue to work with St. Lawrence Health Systems to continue to bring them online and get them updating their other 2 hospitals in the region. Tom, did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it all.
So we found that this system was very, very helpful, especially in light of a pandemic and understanding between multiple entities of what resources are out there. So I believe you will also see further work with the Lewis and St. Lawrence County Public Health Departments as well.
Yes. And again, we are still working on getting the Syracuse Hospital connection. And then we've also entertained the idea of bringing in Faxon St. Luke's and the Utica region hospitals as well. Any questions?
Okay, next one.
That's me again. So we do have a Narcan overdose prevention program that we run out of the office. During COVID, we had to order 2 additional shipments of Narcan kits. They come 52 a case. And then just some numbers for an idea of what's been going on. In the first quarter of 2019, we had 5 patient interactions with this, and this data is our non-transporting agencies. So this doesn't include ambulance information. We had 5 patient interactions in the first quarter of 2019 with 8 doses administered. In the first quarter of 2020, we had 7 interactions with 14 doses. In the second quarter of 2019, we had 8 interactions with 12 doses. And in the second quarter of 2020, we've had 35 interactions with 75 doses administered. So the number is just skyrocketed during the pandemic. And it's been interesting dealing with how to get more additional Narcan to these agencies that need it now that we are remote. Any questions?
Okay, Jonathan just reminded me of something. So I am still working remotely 5 days a week, whereas Jonathan is in the office on Thursdays and Fridays. I do have Narcan for the St. Lawrence County agencies. If they need it, they can get a hold of me. And it is the nasal Narcan for those who are in the BLS Narcan program. And again, Jonathan is in the Watertown office on Thursdays and Fridays if anybody needs it or needs something from the office.
And I do have Narcan here at my home office in the event that it's a time period where I won't be at the office.
So, all right, next one.
We're there.
Okay, so here we are. I just have some miscellaneous things to report on that we've been doing, but I would entertain that we get motions. We can do these one at a time, or we can do them all together. I'm going to recommend that we do this as one motion. If somebody would like to make that motion, one of the physicians.
I'm going to stop the screen share real quick just so we can see faces.
Okay.
I make a motion to do this all at once.
Okay. So your motion would be to approve the minutes from the February 2020 meeting, to approve the upgrade from CC to paramedic of Perishville Fire Department and Tri-Town Rescue, as well as the BLS adjuncts for West Leiden of albuterol and CPAP, and the medical director change for Fort Drum ambulance.
That is correct.
Okay, so Dr. Coates.
Yeah, second.
And Dr. Heiss.
Second.
And Dr. Gray.
Yes,
Sarah?
I made the motion.
Oh, that sounded like Maya. I wasn't looking at my screen.
It was. Did I talk out of turn? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I made the motion and I agree with it, all in one.
You're right. Sorry. So I thought I had called on Sarah. I just got myself confused. Okay. Did everybody hear her? I heard her.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, who'd I miss? I get all the physicians. Dr. Coates, I got you. So,
That's all the physicians.
okay. Sorry. Mark is picking on me. Okay. So next, just real quick, we've been very busy during this time. Again, the health commerce system, I've already talked about that. We're trying to get all the agencies in there. I do have a list of folks to contact that have contacted me, but if your agency does not have a representative in the health commerce system, we need to move forward with that. We're working on the national ambulance contract. We are still doing data entry for that. That takes up a significant amount of our time, as well as the work that's been done on it throughout the whole pandemic. We've been on program agency, course sponsor, agency weekly calls every week. Now they've decreased to every other week, which is great. We were sending weekly COVID activity reports to the state, again, up until 2 weeks ago. So virtually, we've attended a St. Lawrence County EMS Advisory Board meeting, and Jefferson County was doing calls on a weekly or every other week basis during the pandemic. So we participated in those, and we actually went to the Lewis County EMS Advisory Board meeting that was held last week. And last but not least, we've been the correspondent liaison between the agencies and the state, and we've been, our contract ends today, so I'm done for the year. We do not have our extension yet, but we're told we're going to get it, so we've been working diligently on budgets. They have a whole new process. We now have to put everything into Grants Gateway, so that's been a huge challenge and a learning point for the program agency. All our information is entered. We are just waiting to see what they asked for clarifications. And again, I already stated all provider files are now electronic, and we are going to be moving our agency files that way to be able to have a little less in the office and help us be a little more mobile working in case that second wave does come around. So, any questions for the program agency? All right. So I did fail to ask anybody if they had any other old business. So is there any other old business out there that needs to be discussed before we move on to new business? Anything, Jonathan, in chat?
Nope.
All right. So we're going to move on to new business. So under Nitronox, and I had sent this out in an email with the supporting documentation, we just ask for, we don't necessarily approve agencies approved overall, but we ask that they utilize our process. The acceptance, our process is actually to track via the minutes used. And I had an agency that would like to track it via weight. They will actually weigh the containers, and they have the policy in regards to that. And there is a differentiation in the weight of the containers when it is used. And so I just wanted to make sure that we had that discussion here, and that was okay with the REMAC to move forward. And so we'll talk about that, and then Mr. Hughes, I will call on you.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Just letting everybody know that we've had a contract with Air Methods for the past year to do the Air Medevac mission in our training area. Since our aviation unit is returning, they're actually going to be taking that back as of August 1st. So we will have the 10th Cab Aviation Unit doing that, as they have forever, except for the last year. So just letting everybody know.
Thank you.
Debbie has, go ahead, Debbie. That's just easier for me to say.
I just wanted to give some input on the nitro. In order to weigh it and have it be effective, you have to freeze it first. If you weigh it before it's frozen, you don't get an accurate count how much is in there, and you can't add to it. So they just need to be aware of that. What we do is, and we've had nitro since the beginning and have been very happy with it, is, you know, we do it by minutes, and when we think it's low, we throw them in the freezer, and we have the red locks to put on them, and then we let them sit there for 24 hours. Then we pull them out and weigh them and add nitrous at that time. But if you try to weigh it without it frozen, you're not going to get an accurate reading. Just so they know.
Okay.
Unless they've been more successful than we were, because we were never successful. That's why we worked with Jeff Gregory way back when we instituted this, and that's how we came up with going by minutes. And if it's been used more than 40 minutes, then we take it out of service, freeze it, weigh it, and add nitro to it.
Okay. So did you find any issues with using the weighing of it, other than not getting the accurate with freezing? Oh yeah, probably haven't used it.
We didn't get any. It didn't register for us when we tried doing it without freezing it. We did not get an accurate weight of what was in it.
Okay.
And if they're successful, I guess I would like them to share that on how they're doing that, because again, we weren't successful when we tried that.
Okay. And I don't know that they've tried it yet.
Ann?
Yes.
Bill Rice here.
Oop, nope, Bill.
We've been using the nitrous. We calculate ours by weight and by time. We do both. We haven't any problems with weighing it. We don't freeze the tanks or anything like that. We haven't any problems. It's very accurate with the weight.
Is there maybe a difference in what you're using for equipment?
Yeah, Bill, I'll reach out to you because I would like to get some information on that, and then we can share that with everybody.
Sure. We use the Porter system, but you can reach out to me.
Okay. So, one of the things we've seen is a renewed interest, especially when we have some more A&T level of care patients. And again, in light of, the amount of opioid abuse that's out there, of agencies who want to put Nitronox on board. The two specific agencies are Potsdam and Indian River. So.
And Guilfoyle is also, Guilfoyle asked me last week for my policies. They're going to look at it as well.
So, so does anybody else have any comments or concerns? And maybe we just edit that to say by weight and or minutes. Any thoughts? Hearing none, I just want to make sure all the physicians are. I just want to make sure all the physicians are on board with that. See if I can keep this straight. Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Dr. Coates?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Dr. Gray?
I support it.
Okay. Dr. Delaney?
I agree.
All right. The next is nasal intubation, which I answered my own question. I had forgotten that when we started or did the new protocols and we went through that whole list of things in the 2017 protocols that said were regional options, I did find where we did address nasal intubation. And on the secondary airway policy and procedure that we have, the one that identifies the accepted secondary airways, we did put in there that nasal intubation was approved, but could only be utilized with a medical control order and if you were trained on nasal intubation. So I don't have any further question on that unless somebody has other discussion. Okay, hearing none. All the providers on REMAC have expired on, not all of the providers, a select number of the providers on REMAC expired on 4/20. With COVID, I'm going to respectfully ask the REMSCO if they will extend those, but I'm also going to ask that they extend the other members 1 year so we don't have everybody finishing at the same time, because the remaining members of REMAC will expire on 4/21, and if we only extend part of them, they will all expire at the same time. So does anybody have any concerns with that? Okay, any other new business?
And I have a question that one of our providers brought to me, and they're looking at the protocol for the difficulty breathing, asthma, COPD, wheezing in adult. Under medical considerations, it says epinephrine 1 to 1,000, 1 milligram ml, 3 milligrams via nebulizer, or racemic epinephrine 2.25%. 0.5 mLs and 3 mLs of normal saline via nebulizer. The question is, what level is that?
So, I don't know, let me find it here.
It's under the, again, it's under the diff breathing, asthma, COPD, down under medical considerations.
So that's an interesting question. It needs to be in the scope of practice. Well, for those agencies who are trained in syringe epinephrine, it would then, you know, and if they are trained in BLS albuterol, they have both a nebulizer training and that. So I don't have an answer to that without either reaching out to the collaborative protocol committee. I would say definitely at the AEMT level, but as far as BLS use of that, I don't know what the answer is. Thoughts? Okay. I will reach out to the collaborative group for clarification, if that works.
Yeah, I just told them at this point that, you know, we are trained in check and eject here. Obviously, we have albuterol, that if they thought it warranted it, to at least call in. It's a medical control consideration and talk to an ER doc and do it that way, but that I would try to get some clarification, and then I could make sure we did some training and some little bit more training on that for the folks.
So I can reach out and ask that question and see what some of the other regions or what some of the other opinions are on that. The other thing it may warrant is in that protocol suggestion box is a question / clarification if you wanted to put it in there so it went to the collaborative group as a whole.
Yeah, they just brought this up to me last night. Has any other agencies or any ER docs gotten any requests from providers to do this?
I've heard some discussion on it before. But again, kind of like you, make sure that if they're going to do something like that, they need to be just talking with medical control. And again, they also have to be trained in both a nebulized treatment and the epinephrine. So. All right. Any other new business? So we have had some QA/QI. It's been handled locally by the medical directors of the agencies. And the next meeting that we have scheduled is October 19th, 2020. To be determined whether it will be in person or virtual. We'll let you know. And again, if something changes, we may have to call a meeting earlier, but we will communicate that out as well. I would truly, truly appreciate any thoughts on the virtual meeting, how it went, any suggested changes. If you feel there's future use of this, or if it's easier to manage it this way, just looking for any feedback on this. It'll be interesting to see how the transcription comes out. That is something that's required that we have when we're holding the meeting virtually. So one more chance. Anything else for new business? Hearing none, REMAC will be adjourned, and thank everybody for attending. Have a great night and enjoy your 4th of July weekend.
Thank you, Anne.
Thanks.